Hello, and welcome everyone to the first ever Creative Showcase here at UTM, where we will be exploring inclusion for the next hour and a half together. My name is Selma, and I'll be your host for today. I'm also joined with Miriam, who will be our chat moderator. We'll be introducing ourselves a little bit more shortly. So before we get started, I want to give you a little bit of idea of what we're going to be doing today. We're starting off with a short welcome, followed by an opening act by the one and only Desiree. We will then go through our judge introductions as well as the finals presentations, which is going to take the majority of today's event. After that, we will go on to have our mid-show act with Victory, which I'm really excited for, as well as a Kahoot game for everyone. And lastly, we will also have our winners announcement, as well as some closing remarks and a poll. So some reminders for today's event, considering that it is a virtual event. We are mindful of security concerns while using this platform. If there are any major disruptions that would interrupt my ability to control the Zoom platform, we will ask everyone to log off immediately and the session will be rescheduled. Please note that this event is being recorded and it will be posted on the Center for Student Engagement's website for the purposes of future engagement, as well as promoting accessibility. And please do mute your microphone unless asked a question or prompted to do otherwise. We are also hoping that you would turn on your camera today if you're comfortable, and as well as feel free to rename yourself with your first name as well as your preferred pronouns. Only the speakers will be spotlighted during the event to protect your privacy. And lastly, please do engage with us via the chat as well as the Zoom reactions throughout the event. We always want to hear what you think, and this is what the event is all about. Any inappropriate comments or speaking out of context, however, by any participant will result in the individuals privately being asked to stop the inappropriate commenting. And if they don't, unfortunately, we will have to remove the individual from the event. We do want to keep the integrity of the place throughout the event as well. All right, so as I mentioned, my name is Selma and I'll be your host for today. I am the team lead for the Access and Inclusion program here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. I'm also a fourth-year student specializing in psychology and minoring in education studies. And although I don't have a cat, I am a cat lover, and I'm also a CN Tower Edge walker. So if you don't know what that is, I recommend that you check it out after this event. And I'll be passing it over to Miriam, who is our chat moderator, and she will be introducing herself to everyone as well.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Miriam, so I'll be your chat moderator for this presentation. I'm an Inclusions Program Assistant with Center of Student Engagement. I'm in my third year, double majoring in biology for health science and psychology. I'm passionate for traveling, and every country I travel to, I collect a mug from there.
Thank you so much, Miriam. All right, and we would also like to conduct a land acknowledgement before we move forward with today's event. We want to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates and where we gather today both virtually and in spirit on Treaty 13A. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Mississaugas of the Credit, who have hunted, fished, and gathered and taken care of these lands since the immemorial. Respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and we are committed to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as well. So thank you everyone for joining me and taking the time to acknowledge the land today. And I also do encourage that you reflect on your own relationship with the land as well on your own. So that being said, I would like to share with all of you our what and why for the Creative Showcase. So this event aims to examine student perceptions of inclusion at UTM. Over the past few weeks, students had the opportunity to submit a piece of art, so whether a written, a visual, a performance, answering the question, what does inclusion at UTM mean to you? And out of the submissions we received, 7 students were selected as finalists to present their individual pieces during today's online event. Shortly, I will be introducing our 3 honorable judges that will be responsible for assessing those art pieces. And after the results are in, first, second, and third place winners will be announced during the second half of the event. The prizes are compensation of $250, $200, and $100 respectively. And not only are we here to recognize and acknowledge the effort of our amazing finalists, but we're also here to celebrate and recognize the power of art in bringing people together. When we were initially thinking of ways to explore inclusion at UTM, we knew that something like the Creative Showcase was the way to go. It's important we value diverse ideas and allow for different expressions of important topics, such as inclusion. It is only through these types of meaningful and intentional collaborations that we can truly refine our programming and build a strong community here at UTM. So thank you everyone for coming out today. You're certainly in for a treat. And yeah, let's get started with our first part of today's event. So we will be starting with our opening act performed by the one and only Desiree. Desiree has been writing for 7 years, dabbling a bit in spoken word, poetry, and prose. She's currently a student at UTM studying finance and economics. Writing for her is essential to self-discovery, and she performed at a few open mics on campus, as well as trying to find new ways to perform her pieces through videos. So I'll pass it over to Desiree to introduce the 2 pieces that she will be performing for us today. So please take it away, Desiree.
Oh, thank you so much for the handoff, Salma. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me here today. So I got to perform my poetry for the first time at UTM at a small women and gender studies event 4 years ago. And I was clutching my piece of paper, stuttering through each line. And I told myself that I was not going to let my fear of public speaking take me away from my passion of writing and performing poetry. And later on, after my first gig, I was invited to perform by the Diversity and Inclusion Office. And this came with my new self-confidence and a lot of that I just accumulated from my first performance. And I think university has really helped me in that form of self-discovery and finding that voice and being able to use it. And I wrote one of my pieces that I'm going to be performing later on, which is called Clouded Visionary. And this is like when I had one of my aha moments. But first I wanted to share my narrative piece, which is called Medicine for the Soul. And I just want to challenge the artists that are here tonight to keep pursuing whatever it is that makes the blood rush through your veins. So this is my first piece. A quick question. Has anybody ever heard of the book called Chicken Soup for the Soul? Can I get some raised hands? Or maybe not. Okay, we've got one person. Okay, that's great. It's a very old school book, but it's still relevant. So I remember my primary school teacher bringing this book in on a rainy day as we weren't allowed to play outside on the jungle gym in case of the lightning. And my teacher asked us, oh, does anybody know this book? And I was so perplexed, I did not. Anyways, what I had learned from this was the use of metaphors. And I never realized that the author didn't mean that chicken soup had all these health benefits, which I mean, it does, but the title had a deeper meaning. And I know that for many of us, that we've had our mothers cook us some chicken soup while we were sick in bed. And what I later learned is that this book of tales unfolds the underlying meaning that there is wisdom in the in-between moments of life, and that this wisdom is soul food, and that perhaps it can help us to repair our broken hearts and to shape the world. I've always wondered why artists and musicians are usually paid so little, except for a handful of people who manage to make it. And I don't know how to express the wholeness in my heart as I open a book and I find a character that resonates with my own experiences, or I observe artwork and I read into someone's life and get a mere glimpse of the tragedy that they may have been through, or I put on my headphones and I feel like I'm not alone in this world, but someone somewhere has literally gone through what I've gone through. It's a remedy. And I realized how much restoration can happen through the arts. And perhaps that's why most artists struggle to make it, because we don't realize the value of therapy that art, music, or novels have, that you can't put a price on self-expression. We don't need to flee from it. but rather unveil that side of ourselves, unveil the most vulnerable parts of you, and let that be the art that you create. Let that be the song that resonates with other songs. And I remember when my brother said to me, maybe that's what arts, music, theater, and books are, that they are medicine for the soul, or better yet, chicken soup for the soul. So thank you, that was my first piece. And now I'll be sharing my second piece, which is called Clouded Visionary. So there was once a girl who captured clouds as they eclipsed in her heart like a Polaroid. The only way she could translate weather patterns was by paper. You see, paper is she, embodying her seasons like a pathetic fallacy, where she is one with the winds, paper that had taken her pain and gave it a place to stay. And there, underneath the spotlight, she found the paper now performed into poetry. Poetry flows through her until it became her. Poetry is she. Now she knows no bounds. Somersaults in the wind and sleds in the snow. She was not just poetry, but she was word performed into art. She let her pain perform poetry. She was pain. Now she is art. And underneath the spotlight, where she now uncarved her heart, takes out the part, the Polaroid of the stars, a map to a greater start that reeks of agape, the Father's heart. Thank you so much. And I hope that you appreciated these pieces.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you so much, Desiree. It's always a pleasure to have you perform at our events. Your words truly resonate, and we thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Desiree. All right, so now we will be moving on to our judge introductions. Please welcome with me our three wonderful judges for this evening. First, we want to acknowledge and thank all our judges for taking the time out of their schedules to be a part of today's event. It really shows their commitment to exploring inclusion and promoting it in the community. So we'll go around and we'll hear what inclusion means to each of our judges as well and how they embody it in their work. So I would like to start with Professor Jiajun Wang, and I will also put you on the spotlight. So Professor Jiajun Wang is an assistant professor here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, in the program of writing studies in the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy. As a believer in the power of language, Dr. Wang specializes in rhetoric and writing. He also takes great interest in multilingual writing, literacy, and cultural studies of social media. Prof, would you like to take over and share with everyone what inclusion to you, what does inclusion mean to you, as well as how do you embody it in your work?
Hi, Selma. Thank you so much for this very generous introduction. So my name is Zhao Zhe, and I'm originally from China and studied and lived in the United States for the past 10 years. And it's my honor and privilege to serve as one of the judges for today's event. And I really look forward to appreciating your creative artwork and exploring what inclusion means to you and to all of us together. Linguistically speaking, inclusion is a noun, but I see it as a verb that denotes an action, that is to include. So I would like to define inclusion as the action of consciously, sensitively, and actively cultivating a safe, open, equitable, and nurturing space where our differences in, for example, our race or ethnicity or gender, sexuality, ability, culture, language, nationality, or education, et cetera, how these differences are recognized, valued, and celebrated, and where every single one of us, regardless of our differences, is recognized, valued, and celebrated, and where everybody gets to be who they want to be it's an incredibly delicate space that we all have to constantly and consciously maintain and safeguard. And we also need to know that this very space that some of us feel entitled to happens to be the space where the space for, let's say, survival and dignity for others. So I strive to cultivate such a space in my classroom, try to be a compassionate listener. My students know that, no matter what they say and how they say what they say, their ideas will be, heard, respected, and recognized. And also try to be sensitive to what might potentially get in the way of my students engaging in a potential conversation. For example, are my questions too vague? Might one student be offended by another student's opinion, or might this student be too shy to speak up, etc., etc. So I know I'm still learning and sort of reflect on my teaching and research on a weekly basis. And with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Selma.
Thank you so much, Professor. I think it showcases how intentional you are about inclusion, and we're so lucky to have you join us today. So thank you so much. All right, so our second judge today is Brianna Phillip. I will also be spotlighting Brianna for everyone. Brianna works as a registered clinical social worker and a therapist for almost 8 years now, particularly focusing on youth and their families, as well as creating a space for them to grow into the best versions of themselves. If you haven't seen Brianna's interview with the Medium, I highly encourage that you check it out to learn about all the creative ways that she is utilizing to inspire youth during quarantine. So Brianna, we would love to hear from you what inclusion means to you and how you embody it in your work.
Thank you so much for that introduction and for having me. I'm very excited. What does inclusion mean to me? I think inclusion means more than just telling people that they're allowed to enter. It means being intentional about ensuring that the spaces that we occupy and the spaces that we offer people, that they let them know that they have the right to be audacious and show up as themselves without apology or without wondering if they walked into the wrong space. Right. I think a lot of times when we think about diversity and inclusion, we think about like, how many different colors or how many different looks do we have on a team, but it's more than just what it looks like. It's about what it feels like for all of those people who look different in those spaces. In regards to how I foster and encourage inclusivity in my work, I think a big part of inclusivity or the work to be inclusive is validation. And as a therapist, I do that through validating individual stories and letting them know that they have the ability and the right to rewrite and unwrite lines of their story if they so choose. Additionally, I am an advocate for Black communities. And so I share, the stories of Black individuals, past, present. And I think another big part is just being vulnerable myself. I think that also gives people in ways permission that they shouldn't have to ask for, but sometimes we feel like we need to ask for it. And so in vulnerability, I feel like it lets people feel like they have the permission to share their own stories, and also allows them to know that they are not alone in their experiences. So that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Brianna. I think we have a lot to learn as well from you. And I love the point that you added as well about that feeling. And I hope that we're able to capture that feeling of inclusion today for everyone and throughout the event. So thank you so much. We're excited to have you join us as well. All right, last but not least, we have Cleanna Smoke. Cleanna is a 5th year student at UTM, as well as an inclusion program assistant at the Center for Student Engagement. Her primary focus is on the Indigenous portfolio, where she creates powerful programming to celebrate and recognize Indigenous people, culture, and histories. Some of her recent work includes facilitating the Indigenous Book Club at UTM, which is powerful. If you haven't had a chance to attend, you should definitely consider it, as well as the Medicine Bag Workshop during Reading Week. Kiliana, please share with everyone what inclusion means to you and how you embody it in your work.
Sego everyone, like Salma said, my name is Kiliana Smoke, and what inclusion means to me is like not having to sacrifice one of your identities when you enter a space. So as a student, I always felt especially my first year, I felt like I had to sacrifice my Indigenous identity when entering a westernized, in many senses, like a colonized institution of academia at UTM, but through my own like journey and through like my work I've done at UTM, I made it more of like a space where I'm able to celebrate both my identities as an Indigenous student and as a scholar as well. And so inclusion means not being able to, not having to sacrifice any identity that you have when entering a space, and be able to feel comfortable to share both, like all your experiences with everyone. And yeah, just about that space of feeling comfort, like Brianna said. And yeah, in my work, I focus on fostering inclusion by having it open to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, because it's important to have Indigenous students feel comfortable and have a space for where they can celebrate their culture and share their experiences, but also it should be a space for non-Indigenous students to like come and learn new concepts, new history that they haven't learned from academia or in their past like experiences as well. And so it's very important to like continue that process of reconciliation and especially in these times. So yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be here and see all your performances.
Thank you so much, Kiliana, and thank you so much to all our judges today for joining us. I wish this conversation just keeps going and we're here to get to know each other, but I'm sure we're also waiting, and we've been waiting for this moment to hear also what the UTM students have to say about inclusion. So without further ado, let's get started with our first finalist. Is everyone ready? I would like to see some excitement in the chat. Yes, I see some reactions. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, so our first finalist for the day is Helen. Helen, please come on. I see your video as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Helen. So Helen is a fourth year student who submitted this beautiful artwork using Adobe Illustrator. She believes creating an inclusive and diverse community fosters open-minded learning at UTM. Let's appreciate this artwork. And Helen, please take over and tell us more about what does inclusion at UTM mean to you, and how does your piece connect to this question?
For sure. Thank you so much, Salma. So, hi, everybody. My name is Helen. I'm a fourth-year student. I study visual culture and communication, but also education studies as my minor, because I'm very passionate about learning. So in my spare time, I do like to volunteer as a tutor, so that's fun. So inclusion. Inclusion at UTM means that everyone is able to access education and everyone's able to learn together in a safe and healthy environment. So when I think of inclusive, I think of the words respect and diversity. So everybody is welcome in the community, regardless of their backgrounds, like their demographics or even what they're studying. And being inclusive means that learning material is accessible, which is so important. Something I learned from working with accessibility services, so that every student has access to the same knowledge. And another point, even if somebody doesn't look like you or talk like you, they can still bring valuable contributions to the table. And lastly, one important aspect of inclusiveness at UTM is action, because it takes action to be open-minded and willing to learn from each other. My piece connects to inclusion at UTM because I drew a group of UTM students who are surrounded by a tree, and the tree symbolizes collective growth, so academic growth or personal growth, and the tree also symbolizes knowledge. It also represents collective wellness, which is something that was inspired from my work at the Health and Counseling Center, because we always use imagery of trees and plants and greenery in our social media when we are trying to promote these messages of wellness. And I also recognize the different programs at our school, and I drew icons for each of the departments. Like we see the visual studies department or economics department or math and computer science. So every single department is included. I wanted to highlight the sense of community that comes along with inclusion. And note that nobody in my drawing, like no two people look exactly the same or like another person, which highlights that we are all unique individuals with different experiences and knowledge. And that's important. So like if you're working in a group project, somebody might come up with a different idea than you have, and you might think, oh, cool, that's something I didn't think of before, or even vice versa. And that's something I really appreciate about UTM. And the style that I chose to do my drawing in is also simple, so that somebody might look at the drawing and think, okay, that can be me. Yeah, thank
so much.
you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Helen, for sharing with us what you think inclusion at UTM means to you. Everyone, please take some time to appreciate Helen's artwork as we prepare for our next finalist, Sumaya. All right, so second up, we have Sumaya, a third-year student who wrote this remarkable written entry about the complexity and different types of inclusion at UTM. Sumaya, please read your piece that you've submitted for this competition, as well as afterwards, you can tell us a little bit more about how it connects to the question, what does inclusion at UTM mean to you?
Thank you so much. All right, I'll just start by reading. Inclusion to me is what my piece is called. Inclusion to me is the way I step onto the 110 and see a group of hijabi girls with flower pendants looped through the chiffon, dangling by their necks. Their hijabs have a point at the top and cascade down their shoulders, matching with their silky blouses and wide-legged trousers. They huddle together on the University Express bus, legs crossed with each other's, speaking in low, hushed voices. And I sit at the back of the bus and want to join in on their conversation, to be their friend, one of them. And then one of the girls looks over at me and smiles before we all get off at the university stop. And I think this is what inclusion is to me. Inclusion to me is the way that I walk to class through the CCT building and see a boy in a wheelchair wheeling down the ramp made just for him. I see a couple of students walking by his side and clearing a path for him so that no one bumps into him or gets in his way. And when the wheels stumble over a stray piece of rock or shrubbery that got in his way anyway, some sweet stranger quickly goes over and moves it away for him. And I think this is what inclusion is to me. Inclusion to me is the way each class I take from the moment I accepted my university offer well into my third year has a different professor, one who looks like me, a Pakistani brown girl, all grown up into herself and whose limits have not been reached yet. One who looks like my friend, a kind and charming Black woman who dreams of being an educator and sharing her warmth with others. One who looks like any little child I come across in a library or bookstore or community center who hopes that that one day they too get to go to university to achieve whatever it is that their minds can imagine and never be told that what they dream is fruitless or wrong or useless, but bold and beautiful and the reason why we wake up every day. And I think this is what inclusion is to me. Inclusion to you is maybe the way you get to roam on the green fields of the campus or hike through the forest, and the way you hold your breath when you spot a deer in the distance and think, this is what it feels to be alive until the deer trots away. Or it's the way your eyes travel from person to person in the quiet study room and you see the character in the way everyone studies or reads or writes, and you think to yourself, we exist because we do exist. We exist and we live and we create and we love, and you think this is what inclusion is to you. Inclusion to me is what inclusion is to you. So, in relation to the question, what inclusion is, I had a difficult time writing this because usually I don't enter contests like these because I'm always doubting myself whether I'm like worthy enough to enter contests or whether it's easy to enter contests like this being like a Brown student. And I think for me the word easy is probably one of the reasons why I wrote this, because I've noticed at my years of being at UTM that being included into contests like these, or just going into a classroom, even one that you're not enrolled into, to learn, or walking up to any one of your classmates that you don't know just to talk about work or anything that you want. I think inclusion has an easiness, especially at UTM, that I've noticed. And so for me, that's been my experience. And especially entering this contest has been very illuminating. And especially like the word that I'm using, it's been very easy. And I feel very blessed to have been chosen at all as a finalist. And yes, my experience has been very, very positive. And so, in regards to my piece, I wanted to showcase different snapshots of UTM life and how inclusive people are on and around campus without even realizing, because inclusion really does become a very unconscious thing that we all do, especially with how our world is changing and growing, with the amount of people in this country and wherever other countries that all have universities that are expanding their student base. It's something that's so integrated in our life and society. So I wanted to portray that through little moments that I've noticed throughout my time at UTM. And just to end off, like I think people are observers, and we're always looking into the lives of different people and embracing that life, and wishing that we could be a part of it in some way or another. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumaya. Please, everyone, take a few minutes to appreciate Sumaya's submission. We thank you so much for participating, Sumaya, and every single finalist that we have here is worthy of being here, and we're happy that you've chosen to submit your piece as well. So thank you so much. So next we have Joshua, a fourth-year student at UTM, who submitted a song called Freedom on the idea of safety and a sense of belonging. This song is associated with his artist brand name, Dingani. So feel free to check out more of his work after the event. And Joshua, feel free to drop any links in the chat. We would love to support you as much as we can. And so let's take a listen.
I sometimes feel alone, but I have to realize that it was my only choice. I needed to survive. I guess I'm much like my ancestors. I'm nomadic. They travel north in search of home, despite the challenge. The prospect of living free is all that mattered. So suffering from swollen feet was a rite of passage. Yes, the journey was hard, the people they lost. Just following stars by the grace of God. They made it so far, protected and loved. I think they must have been in search of 15,000 K, that's how much I traveled. My mama wished me Godspeed, kissed me on the cheek, tears streaming as she hugged me, feeling me. She said you better call me every single week. Text me even if it's late, at every stop you make. I want you to be safe, no matter where life takes you. Here's to my child and my love me you. But I want you to just go on, grow up, live life right now. Let's fight for my rights, so I could feel free. Sacrifice so many times, now I'm done kneeling. You can take what's mine, I earned my freedom. Now you'll see me flying high. I had to fight for my rights, so I could feel this. Sacrifice so many times, now I'm done kneeling. You can take what's mine, I earned my freedom. Now you'll see me flying high. I crawled out of the darkness, I walked on jagged doors, with a trail of blood behind me. I started to believe, yeah. I spread it through the bush veil. I lived to forget things. I lifted up my arms so I could catch some air.
Powerful. I have chills. I don't know about you all. Joshua, please take over and tell us more about what does inclusion at UTM mean to you, and how does your piece connect to this question?
Yeah, yes, of course. First, it's very weird to listen to like I'm just gonna sit in like this. When inclusion to me, I can't help but kind of think of my first experience coming to UTM. From South Africa, I was raised in South Africa, and so I went to a predominantly white school, and so I would always feel the sense of imposter syndrome kind of seeping in, right? It's like, do I really belong in this setting? Like, is this for me? And so coming to UTM, I feel like my first sense of inclusion was when I was in a class, and it isn't to say that there were many Black people that were around me, but there were just many other colored faces and diverse faces that it felt like a blessing to kind of be in a space where, you know, there were more people than just like one sort of set culture that represented everything else. And so inclusion at UTM for me has always been, I think, a sense of autonomy that we have as people. It's being able to kind of move through things, having our own distinct cultures and not feeling like we have to conform in any way, which is, I think, a wonderful thing, that you can be in a class with so many people with so many different stories and backgrounds and people of varying abilities. And so, yeah, inclusion at UTM to me has to always kind of center around that idea of independent autonomy, both with ourselves, but also in our culture. But I also wanted to add that inclusion is by no means like, it's like a bare minimum, because integration is married with that. When I kind of created the song, it wasn't necessarily for the intention of this event, and as much as I was just working on the song by myself. But for me, it was the pursuit of inclusion and freedom. I created a song that was about, you know, my decision to leave, and it was to be in a space where, you know, it was inclusive enough and I was free enough, I was autonomous enough, free from persecution, free from discrimination, and free to kind of be who I wanted to be. And I think that like extends to so many people. And again, just going back to that idea of autonomy of thought, you know, I can be in a room of people who we have different culture, different distinct ideas, and sometimes these may be clashing, they may be discourse, but that's natural. And I really wanted to just, again, as I say, inclusion is the bare minimum, and then this integration in the song, even though I'm in the pursuit of freedom. And I found it here. There is still that element of, was it worth it? Because in the beginning, the vocal line is like, I sometimes feel lonely. It's like, I sacrificed a lot to kind of get to this point. And that's the same thing that kind of comes with an inclusive environment, is that it's never truly perfect. There is still an element of things that need to be done, like integration. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. And we really, really appreciate your submission and also your thoughts about inclusion and that point about integration. Thank you so much. Powerful. All right. Well, next up, we have Marta, a first-year student that presented this beautiful dance. It is a South Indian classical Bharatanatyam piece showcasing that dance can be a testament for mutual collaboration amongst people and different cultures. So let's take a look at the video and then we'll talk to Marta a little bit more afterwards. Awesome. Thank you so much for your submission. Marthia, if you'd also like to come off mute now and tell us a little bit more about what does inclusion at UTM mean to you and how does your piece connect to this question as well?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I am Mathira Kausar. I'm from Bangladesh and I'm a first-year student at UTM. And also, like, just one thing, I think because of the internet or something, the video wasn't being like played perfectly. I swear I don't dance this bad. It was just not matching the song perfectly because of the internet. So yeah, and I think, so for me, why I submitted this piece is, I think because this is a very vivid representation of what I do, and I'm proud of it. I think sometimes I have realized that there can be forms of like art or culture that you might not be able to relate to. And sometimes people tend to disregard things that they cannot relate to. For example, if I'm listening to Bengali music, maybe I'm not as cool as if I'm listening to like English pop culture, something that's related to English pop culture. But I think that in itself is very problematic because I understand while you might not like a certain genre of things, but I think people should always try to understand and respect other people's cultures. And you should just not be labeled uncool because you do a certain kind of thing, you like a certain kind of music. And for me, I do not believe any sort of music, any sort of art or dance is uncool. I think every sort of art and creativity is so cool. And I think for me, if I had the option, I would literally become a classical dancer. But in Bangladesh, where I live, it's not a very well-paid job, like dancing, and this career doesn't have a huge return. But if I actually had the option, like this is what I live for. And in the past semester, I think I had, due to COVID, I wasn't that much involved with dancing for a while. I am a professional dancer in Bangladesh, and I used to do events very regularly. And uh, and because I stopped dancing for a while, it impacted my mental health very terribly. I have been seeking therapy for the past 6 months. But guess what? Once I started dancing, like this semester when I came back to campus, I started dancing and I started uploading my dance videos on my Instagram. And I made so many new friends and people find it cool. And that's so amazing because I thought, will people accept this? And literally, I had people asking me for dance collaborations, and it was just amazing. And I made so many new friends just through the art that I could do. And I think what's beautiful about this is I'm a Bangladeshi student, and I have been learning a dance form that is Indian. So that's something beautiful too. I'm learning something that's completely different from my culture. But I think given that we live in South Asia, I think there is also like a lot of things that are in common. And that's what I celebrate through my dance. I have learned so much about Hindu mythology through doing like Indian classical dancing, because especially the dance form that I do, it's Bharatanatyam. It's called Bharatanatyam, and it's hugely dependent on Hindu mythology. And that's so amazing. Like I know so much about another religion. I'm a Muslim, and I think that's amazing too, because I'm learning about new religion. And also, I think at some point I can connect so much to that religion. And I think that's so amazing that you are following a completely different religion. You are connecting on a very deep spiritual level to other people's religion, to other people's culture. And that's beautiful. And and the song that has been used is a Bengali song, which is like completely different from what is usually used for South Indian piece, because usually Bharatanatyam is a South Indian dance that is used with South Indian music. And I think the combination of three cultures, like I am a Bangladeshi performing a South Indian dance style on a Bengali song, and I think that's just a very amazing thing. And that's what I think inclusion means to me. For me, it's owning what you do. It's being proud of what you do. It's making, I think for me, it's making sure that you do not make other people uncomfortable for what they believe in, for what they represent, for their culture, because it's all right to not like a certain sort of art, but it's not all right to call it uncool, to call it bad, to call it not beautiful, because I think art is beautiful. Art is what connects all of us, and we should always own what we do. And I think once I started owning what I do on UTM, I have made like, I think 10 to 15 new friends just through like starting like dancing again. And I think I'm pretty famous on campus now, and that makes me very happy.
Thank you so much, Mathira. We will I'll take you up on that collaboration aspect. Thank you so much for your submission. And I hope we can all take some time to appreciate Mathira's submission as well as we get ready for the next finalist. All right, next up we have Haley. Haley, are you here with us? Awesome. So nice to see you, Haley. Haley is a second-year student that submitted this wonderful illustration to represent inclusion and representation of women. Haley, please take some time to tell us a little bit more about what does inclusion at UTM mean to you, and how does your piece connect to this question?
Absolutely. Thanks, Selma. It's been really nice seeing everyone's pieces so far.
So inclusion to me, when I think about that at UTM, what that looks like, I think of real, genuine representation and representation that isn't forced. A lot of times we see, like certain quotas need to be met. And when I think of representation and inclusion is when that happens naturally. And when you can walk into a classroom at UTM and see true, genuine diversity. And I think that's really beautiful. So for my piece, I decided to focus more on inclusion with women. I think a lot when I'm in public spaces or in classrooms about like how many women are there versus how many men are there. And a lot of the time in certain settings, in certain industries and fields, it's very male dominated. And you'd go into a classroom and you might be the only woman. And what I like is that I'm seeing this shift towards women not only being in classrooms, but like actively being engaged, feeling really comfortable participating, and then also just excelling in these types of environments. And I think that's really great to see. And so being able to walk into a classroom and you feel that there's a diverse variety of women is really cool to see, because not only is that conducive to learning in an academic setting, but it's also conducive from all of us learning to like from each other, which we can always learn from each other. All of our differences allow for personal growth for everyone. So yeah, I think a lot of the times we hear like women being typecast in how they should act, how they should behave, speak, dress, all that kinds of thing. But in reality, women are diverse and they look a variety of different ways, they act a variety of different ways, speak, behave, dress. There's no way to define what it is to be a woman because you can't define it. It's so unique and different. And once you accept those differences is when you can truly have inclusion and representation. You have to first acknowledge that there's differences rather than pretend like there aren't, but then you have to accept them and learn from them. So true inclusion comes from when we accepted these differences and learn that these differences are really beautiful. So that's my piece. And from a visual standpoint, I chose to use black and white because it creates this bold feeling. And there's this like clear contrast and this unity that's created from just using these two colors that are, high contrast. And there's also, I wanted to use a lot of positive and negative space. I was inspired by that piece that's like the goblet made by like the two faces. And so sort of like when you look through the piece, you keep seeing new faces and there's this depth created and there's sort of just this overwhelming feeling of inclusion and diversity and just tons of different women that look a variety of different ways, because that's the reality. We don't look like one thing and we don't act like one thing. So that's my piece. And it's been really nice to see everyone else's artwork. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Haley, for your submission. We truly appreciate it as well. And we will now be getting ready for our next finalist, Ethan. So Ethan is a fourth-year student at UTM that submitted a text-based video about inclusivity online at UTM. And so the piece was generated using Python with printed animations to the computer terminal. Submitted so let's take a look video about inclusivity.
Mysterious pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan, China.
A new type of coronavirus.
The number of affected countries has tripled.
The World Health Organization has just declared that this is a pandemic.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ethan, for your submission. Please take over and tell us more about what does inclusion at UTM mean to you, and how does your piece connect to this question?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Ethan. I'm a stats student. This is actually my first art. So usually I just do computer stuff, but I just want to say to everyone before me, your stuff is incredible. It's really cool to see. But yeah, usually I think about inclusivity in the context of community. Specifically at UTM, I think that the school does a good job to reduce barriers to finding communities, you know, the places and spaces that you identify and the people that you want to surround yourself with. They make you aware of those opportunities. And I mean, just things like this, for example, you know, there's a lot of people who say like, am I an artist? Am I not an artist? And we have like some people who are unsure, myself specifically also. And this is sort of a validating experience in that kind of way. And I'm big in the programming community. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff in Python, and it is not a welcoming place. I don't know if you guys know anything about the coding community, but it's not fantastic for anyone but a straight white man, which I am 2 out of 3 of those things. And even then it's not great. So I wanted to shed some light about that. And I think that at UTM specifically, a lot of those hangups kind of go out the door. You know, there are a lot of people, even in, you know, like math and statistics, what I usually do, from a ton of backgrounds that you don't really see represented in those areas, which I think is really fantastic. So yeah, I think about inclusivity at UTM as fostering community and allowing people to feel welcome in those communities, even in times when they wouldn't normally be. And my piece is kind of about my own experience a little bit, and then also the current environment online. I wanted to showcase how UTM inclusivity might work, finding those communities in the current time that we've all been living through. So I wanted to make a screen-based, you're kind of in it, the computers we've been facing all year, and show what finding a community is like at UTM in this time. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Ethan, for your submission and your powerful thoughts as well. We truly appreciate it. All right. Now we can go on to our last finalist for this evening. Aima, I will be putting the spotlights on you as well. And I see that your camera is on. Wonderful. So nice to see you, Aima. So Aima is a first-year student who submitted this colorful and vibrant art piece that represents different people coming together at UTM. Aima, please take a moment and explain to everyone, what does inclusion at UTM mean to you, and how does your piece connect to this question?
Okay, sure. Thank you. My name is Aima, and as
Selma described, I'm a first year student. So through this piece, I represented that inclusion at UTM is shown through the diversity that I've seen on campus. And I tried to show that in one frame. And that represents the way that UTM's community is the common area where people from such different backgrounds, experiences, and identities come together. And in the background, I included words that represent inclusion to me. And the one word I'd like to highlight is learning to respect. I believe respect is one of the key parts of inclusion, because if we learn to sincerely value each other's experiences and take the time to unpack the biases we hold, we learn to celebrate everyone around us and create a genuine sense of belonging for them. And if we show respect and compassion in the way we interact with one another, we build a culture where people can openly be themselves and no one feels like they have to minimize parts of their identity to feel accepted. And finally, the stripes at the back are escaping the canvas, and that represents the way that inclusion never really ends, because we have to work towards continuous improvement in our efforts towards inclusion and validating all people. And I believe an educational institution like UTM is like the perfect place to encourage these conversations about inclusion. So I'm super grateful that this contest exists and that I could be a finalist. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Imo. And we're definitely grateful to have you be a finalist today and for your submission as well. So there you have it, everyone, our 7 finalists for this evening and for the competition. Please give a round of applause for all our finalists. Celebrate their pieces in the chat. Go, off with the Zoom reactions. We really want to see your engagement here. Thank you so much to each and every single one of our finalists for your hard work and your amazing submissions. It is certainly going to be a difficult decision for our judges today, who will be placed in a breakout room for the next 10 minutes to discuss their thoughts. So I will open the breakout rooms for the judges now. Thank you, judges, for joining. And in the meantime, we will be enjoying a really powerful presentation that we have here, or a mid-show act by Victory. Victory is a R&B singer-songwriter from Calgary, Alberta, and a 4th-year biology student at UTM. In her 2nd year, Victory was a part of Arts Fest, where her interest in writing was ignited. With 4 songs released so far, she has received support from Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, landing on so many of their playlists, and she draws inspiration from R&B, jazz, hip hop, pop, and many more genres. So please welcome with me Victory, who will be performing one of her original songs, Up.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Victory. I'm really excited to be here. And before I start, I'm just going to say, all y'all are so talented. It's actually crazy. Like, every finalist, y'all did your thing. Since you all shared like what you thought inclusivity is, I'm like, let me share a little bit about that before I get into my song. So I believe music itself is inclusive, and inclusion can mean having the opportunity to feel understood, because to me, that's what writing and songwriting really is. Me trying to be understood. And I feel like there's just so much beauty in that. And music is just a different form that helps facilitate understanding through melodies, notes, whatever. And so today I'll be singing one of my release songs called Up. And it's about moving up mentally and kind of elevating your understanding of yourself and the things in life that can be available to you. So yeah, this is my little remix of Up with a Human Nature interlude. I hope you like it. I finally found what I'm searching for. I'm moving up. I'm going up. I'm moving up. Ooh.
Time goes by, friends come and go like yeah. And I don't mind being alone out here. Been on my grind, so don't got to spend all my time pretending that I don't care. 'Cause I've been trying, even when it's raining on me, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't feel alone. I got so much more to go. I know I've been down, been up, like yeah. I've been around, been down, like yeah. But it feels so good to be up now, yeah. And I like it like that, yeah. I like it like that. Open my eyes, beautify my mind, just at the right time. Open my eyes, beautify my mind. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, no. Oh, no, no. Oh, yeah. I've been. It feels so good to be up now. Up, oh yeah. Right, that was my song Up. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Victory. I feel like I've been using the word powerful this whole entire event, but that's the only word that is resonating with me because all of the performances that we've seen today were truly, truly powerful. And Victory, yours was certainly powerful as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll be passing it on to Miriam now for the Kahoot game that she'll be leading you through. So I will pause my recording and I will pause the sharing as well. And please enjoy the little Kahoot game that Miriam has prepared for you.
Hi guys, so I'm going to be doing the Kahoot game while the judges have their decision being made. And Victory, thank you so much for your performance. Your voice is beautiful, it was giving me chills. It was amazing, like I can't ever sing like that, but it's beautiful. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to be just, let me just make my screen larger so I'm able to share it with you. Perfect. So we're just going to be playing like a fun little Kahoot game. So everybody can just enter the pin from the screen. Perfect, feel free to enter the pin. And there's a QR code as well if you guys want to do that on your phone. Okay, I think we'll begin. Just wait a few more seconds to see if anybody else wants to join in. Okay, perfect. I think we're ready to go now. Okay, let's start playing. The game is Guess the Artiste and the song title. Good job, Haley. You're in first place. Okay, next question. Ooh, that was a close one. Let's see who got these. Alan, good job. Let's keep going. Good job, guys. Victory, let's go. Ten more seconds left. Ooh, that was a close one. Still victory. I think she's gonna win. That was good. That was fast. Oh, I think we have some finalists and some winners already.
Yep, it looks like this will be our last question.
Okay, sounds good. I guess our winner is Victory, and second place is Desi, and third place is Ima. Thank you so much for playing, guys.
All right, thank you everyone. As we are preparing for the announcement that we've all been anticipating this entire event. So buckle in as we pass it on to our judges to announce the 3 winners that we have today. We will be sharing our screen as well in a second and then passing it on to the judges. Anticipation is real. I'm holding you. I'm holding everyone back. Okay, so the slides will be ready to share. All right, so we can pass it on to our judges when they're ready to share the finalists, the 3 winners that we have. Please take it away.
Okay, so you guys definitely didn't make it easy, that's for sure. And before we do announce the winners, I just want to say that I, as an artist, am inspired. I've had Writer's Block for as long as COVID has been here, and I am inspired by the arts that has been created. So are we waiting for you to share your screen, or are we just...
I believe that you can go forward with the announcement, and the second that we have our winners, we will
Okay, awesome. And so we decided that we are each going to announce one of the winners. And so I have the privilege of announcing our third place winner. And the person who we've chosen for third place is Haley Park. So congratulations, Haley.
Thank you so much.
And I will be announcing our second place winner. Our second place did an art form I haven't seen done before in art. And it was amazing. It was very powerful, very like cause emotions for me. So our second place winner is Ethan.
All right, the moment you've been waiting for. The first prize goes to Joshua Vanga for his beautiful song, Freedom. Congratulations.
Thank you to all of our judges, and congratulations to each of our finalists, Joshua, Ethan, as well as Haley. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish that we can all walk out of here as winners, but I can certainly say that from all the submissions, and I know that the judges will also agree with me that we felt touched and we appreciate every single submission that we got in. This will certainly be something that we will always, always, always appreciate in our programming here at the Center for Student Engagement and the University of Toronto, Mississauga, is always including student voices, student submissions, student creativity. This is something that we'll always be striving for. So thank you to each and every single one of our finalists, as well as the judges, for contributing and giving us their input and allowing us to learn from them today as well. And before you log off for the day and for the night, please fill out the poll that will be launched on your screen shortly. We want to hear what you think of the Creative Showcase. We want this to keep going and happen every single year. And for all of the finalists, as well as other individuals who haven't had a chance to participate again in our event. So the poll will be launched shortly, and I would like everyone to please have a chance to fill out before they leave.